Peace. Greetings to you all. Sheikway L, a.k.a. Lord Albert, a.k.a. Mr. Just the Facts. But you could call me Naheem. I want to speak on the failure of consciousness and the rise of Black republicanism. It is my contention that the rise of Black republicanism is due to the failure of consciousness. What do I mean by that? When I look at the conscious scene today, as it's called, the people that are supposed to be aware, the people who are supposed to be awakened, the woke folk, in light, they are the most regressive. They're not progressive at all. Their information, their knowledge base is rooted in ancient history. And I am of the opinion that the reason why their knowledge base is rooted in ancient history is, one, they're not mentally equipped to take on the problems of the world today. So they're looking for an out. And number two is basically number one. It alleviates them from the responsibility of having to do anything worthwhile. For instance, I consider myself as a conscious person, right? And in the realm of those whom purport to be conscious, I am constantly attacked. I am probably attacked more than any other individual just based on my level of intellect or what I actually know. To whereas you have other people of consciousness who are attacked because maybe somebody was a scam artist. So that person is getting attacked because he's a scam artist. Nobody cares what he has to say. Or they're promoting some ideology that they cannot prove at all. And so they're constantly under attack by people that can keep riding on that ideology, if you will, because it's beneficial to them. It makes them seem smart. It's like a bully picking on a little kid because they know that they can beat up the little kid. And so you hear the same arguments in this so-called conscious community. When it's time to have debates, like live debates and discussions about things of a political nature, things that will bring about change for our people, then the conversation shifts. No one wants to have that conversation. It doesn't bring views. You have some YouTubers right now who think that they're big. They really believe that they're big. They get a couple hundred views, maybe 1,000 or 2 views, and they think that this constitutes some large platform. And this is the problem with social media profits. And I don't mean profits, although social media profits they're just trying to make a profit at the end of the day. It is all about a YouTube check for them. Our collective failure as a conscious collective, in my opinion, has caused the rise of Black republicanism. When we look at all of our scholastic luminaries, whether it's Dr. Ben, Dr. Clark, etc., what happens when you're a young college student growing up in the South or in one of those states where you're experiencing some form of racism and you're reading these works? You're reading Du Bois and Garvey, and you're reading all of these works, but they're not readily applicable for, one, your situation, and two, in the times that we're living in now. The racism and all of those things are the same. However, The times have changed. We have way more power now than we did then. We had come to realize, thanks to the efforts of angels in the flesh, like Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., whom I give props to eternally. He deserves them. He deserves props more than many of your leaders and teachers, because he moved the needle for our people in this nation. He sat down with presidents to get legislation passed on our behalf. Many people say he was a sellout, boule, whatever. You can't prove none of that stuff. It's just a bunch of conspiracy theories that you, like 84% of the rest of the American public, loves to share and spread. Most of what we have insofar as information is not rooted in reality. It's rooted in disinformation, largely spread by Russian trolls dating all the way back to the 60s, 70s, and the 80s. William Lloyd Garrison, he was a famous abolitionist in the 1800s. A lot of the information that he spread was a bunch of conspiracy theories. He saw the plight of our people and he wanted to help fix that. And one of his main students and advocates, if you will, was Frederick Douglass. Frederick Douglass's 4th of July speech was predicated upon the ideology of William Lloyd Garrison. But I want you all to go back and look, research Frederick Douglass, because there comes a point in time when he breaks with Garrison. He starts to do the research for himself, because Garrison was teaching that the black people in the Constitution were being disparaged, and these rights that these European Americans, whom you call white men, they wrote the Constitution in a way to degrade us and belittle us. Well, Frederick Douglass decided one day, well, let me read the Constitution. And one of the things that Frederick Douglass found was that the word Negro wasn't in the Constitution at all. And that the 3/5 clause, it didn't say Negro. Could have been talking about anybody. It just said 3/5 of all other persons. And then Frederick Douglass in the 1800s had the wherewithal to go back and read the document and see for himself that we're not even mentioned in the document. We're not. What excuse do we have in 2018? What excuses do we have? We shouldn't have any. But yet, here we are. When I look at the argument of the quote-unquote black conservatives, so-called black Republicans, well, first they try to say that they're not Republicans and they're not conservatives. They try to say that they are libertarians. It just so happened that they stand on everything that Republicanism stands upon, conservative Republicanism. Everything, every last element of it. When I look at the Brexit movement, you combine the thinking, what are they thinking? Because it's a question that I asked myself after the Florida race, after the Georgia race, Abrams versus Kemp. And I looked at 15% of so-called black people voted for Kemp. What would make a person vote against their own interest? Kanye West said when he put the Make America Great Again hat on, that it gives him superpowers. Sure, if you walk into a Cracker Barrel and order some food with the Make America Great Again hat on, come on in, have a seat, sir. He's one of us. Don't spit in his food. He's one of us. Theoreticizing. I don't mean to be extreme. But I understand what Kanye means when he says that. The perceived power of the European in America, whom is known as the white man. There's no such thing as white people. There's no such thing as black people. We have to just be honest here. These labels are what's keeping us. One acts as an anchor and the other acts as a float. The label black acts as an anchor. The label white acts as a float in the same turbulent waters. Yet my skin is brown. You can see my hat is black. My hat is black. My skin clearly is not black. If you look at a European American, his skin is not white. Let's just do some research. 1681 is when they started to call themselves by this name white. And it acted as a float for them. Go back. Simply go back and research Bacon's rebellion and what came out of this movement and how the bourgeoisie southern class plantation owners got together with their local politicians and decided that they were going to create this new classification called white people. Just go back. It's time for us to look at these things. I am a solutions-based conscious person, if I'm fit to call myself that. This is why I'm blocked out of the 125th Street Crew ciphers. They could have whole 3-hour sessions on their YouTube channels about what exactly? What, even the brothers that purport to be a part of the organization that I'm a part of that they're not members of, they have these YouTube channels and they just go and there's no solutions coming out of them. So the person that brings the solutions is usually the person that's pushed away. It's the Jesus syndrome of the Bible. Jesus was coming to bring solutions. And it got to the point where, and according to the biblical narrative, he went inside the temple and flipped over the tables of the money changers. I'm trying to figure out ways to reach people like Roland Martin and the Mark Lamont Hills and these people that I really identify with politically. But there's a disconnect because they're in a different atmosphere. They're in a different stratosphere. I disagree with Tariq Nasheed on politics. I disagree with all the people that Roland Martin disagrees with in this quote-unquote woke movement and this Blexit movement, the Stacey Dashes and the Candace Owenses. I disagree with these people vehemently, but there's a disconnect between myself and a brother like Roland Martin. Look at me. I got a street aura. I was raised at the bottom of the barrel. And when people see somebody like Roland Martin, they see someone more distinguished, and some of our people will call him boule or bougie, et cetera, et cetera. And he may look at me a certain type of way. And so in this, ideas never get a chance to converge. I don't have a blue check next to my name on Twitter or Instagram. So I'm stuck just doing video blogs like this, but trying to hammer home a solution. And I think that in order for us to have the proper dialogue with the quote-unquote black Republicans, the Blexit folks, the conservatives pretending to be libertarians, is that we have to understand the source of the problem. And it is my opinion that it is a failure of consciousness. All of those Dr. Ben books, all of those books, where is the applicability of what Du Bois was saying in his Philadelphia Negro book? Like, how is that being applied today via the Congressional Black Caucus to bring about the solutions that we need for change? So we get a chance to see the failures of consciousness. What Marcus Garvey did with gathering our people, what Prophet Noble Drew Ali did with gathering our people into what I call the first voting bloc outside of quote-unquote black Christian America. What Father Divine did with gathering a voting bloc, like we have with Drew Ali and Father Divine specifically, we have a merging of a spiritual, divine, and civic national. And yet in 2018, we do not have the consciousness or even the wherewithal to put these things back together again to bring about change. If you're Christian, you reject Islam. I'm Islamic. I'm not, look at me. I don't look like your typical Islamic person because there was no typical look to Islam when Islam first started. Islam in Arabia looked Arabian. Islam in China looked Chinese. Islam in East Africa looked East African. Islam in West Africa looked West African. I'm from America. This is how I look. I like the way I look. I'm Islamic. So when we see people like T.D. Jakes say, I don't want to build with Farrakhan, then you're letting your Western view of Christianity and your Western view of Islam dictate and guide the will of the God that you claim to follow by keeping our people separate. When your own Bible says, according to the Jesus narrative therein, that how can you love God, whom you have never seen, and not love your brother who you see every day? So when I hear a bishop, T.D. Jakes, rejecting Minister Louis Farrakhan, I hear contradiction. And this contradiction breeds confusion. And this confusion breeds, in my opinion, your Blexit folks. So I pray that one day we have a true merging of consciousness with the political will that we see growing in this nation. This is the only way that we're going to combat groups like the Hebrew Israelites, whom are vehemently opposed to voting, not knowing that they are, not caring that they are American citizens. Not just them, but the woke folk like Tariq Nasheed, who don't agree with voting, like the Boyce Watkins, who keeps trying to downplay voting. Oh, just get money. Just get money. I will forget voting. These same people keep getting elected anyway. No. It's on us. We start to delve into the factors of population control. Since 1973, for every one of our children that were born, one was aborted. In 2012 and 2013, they started to track in states like New York, where among our people, there were more abortions than live births. Population halt. So now we have to rely on, number one, pooling our vote together as a so-called black people, but there's not a proper enough conscientious platform established to do it, because Roland Martin is over here, T.D. Jakes is over here, Farrakhan is over there, and you have brothers like myself, small voices that cannot be heard. So my videos and videos like this are pleas. They're pleas to the ears of those who may listen or may come across, that we need to have a real sit down. Roland Martin, people need to know that you do fight for the plight of our people, and that you're not bougie or bourgeoisie, or you're not boule, and you're just some puppet of the quote unquote white man. But how would they know that? But it won't be known just by you saying it. I think that we need more engaging discussion, and we can fight the Blexit folks by simply changing their minds. And I don't think that it's a difficult task at all. I love to debate. Oh, that's just one of my favorite things to do, to debate. But right now we're moving into what I call the be the power phase, where I say, do not fight the power, become the power. And then you will have the power to make a change. And with that, I'm going to close this out, but I pray that this reaches the ears of those whom I need it to reach. And with that, I say peace.